So, the three basic questions an economist would ask are, what is being produced? For the first question, what is being produced? This beautiful hydro flask, lavender color. And then the second question we would be answering is, how is it produced? So this hydro flask would be produced using all different types of materials such as metal and plastic to make the lid, and then also whatever straws are made out of. And then the last question an economist would ask are, for whom is it produced? Hydro flasks like this are typically produced for white girls who would like to be trendy, such as my partner Anna or other group member Tori. You have to pause it.
Okay, we're going to be going over the 4 factors of production. The first is land, which refers to natural resources that are put into making goods and services. And then the second factor of production is labor, which refers to the employees and the work done by the employees to make a good or service. And then capital, which can be human capital or physical capital. And human capital refers to the education and skill level of the employees. And then physical capital refers to physical tools that are used to produce the good or service. And then entrepreneurship, which are the risk takers who use the other 3 factors of production to create their own ideas and further themselves. And then to show examples of the 4 factors of production, we're going to go to our own places of work and show the 4 factors within our own workplaces. Okay.
The first example of the factor of production land is the building, pool, and pool deck used at a city pool. The labor in this example would be the lifeguards in their job of keeping the pool safe.
I'm not saving that one.
The capital in this example would be all of the equipment needed for lifeguards to run the facility, for example, whistles, rescue tubes, and uniforms. Entrepreneurship in this example would be private swim lessons taught at the pool.
Hello everyone, I am at my father's gas station here, 7-Eleven. All of us own a 7-Eleven of course because we are brown. So today I'm going to be talking about the 4 factors of production, and I'm going to be using my father's 7-Eleven as an example. So the 4 factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So in this situation, the land would be this whole property, of course. So all this, the perimeter going all the way to the road, that would be the land that is being used for this business. Then the labor would be all the workers. So for example, me, station, and I fill up gas for all the people that come by. And then the next thing after land and labor would be capital. So that is like the things that they use to improve the business. So for example, in this situation, it would be all the goods that are being sold in the 7-Eleven, like beer, cigarettes, all those things. And then lastly, it is going to be entrepreneurship. So in my situation, the entrepreneur in this business would be my father. He invested money in buying multiple 7-Elevens, and he has made a monopoly off of this. Thank you.
I definitely drew that, by the way. Anyway, a command economy, also known as a planned economy, is a type of economy in which the government is in control of the production and distribution of goods and services to the people. It is based around a central government, and this government sets up a multi-year central economic plan that spans the entire economy, meaning that everything that they do will be based on this plan, generating economic growth, allocating resources, the distribution of goods and services, as well as production, will be based on this plan. Laws and regulations are also set in place. However, they also work towards completing this plan or achieving this plan set by the central government. The government also owns and operates monopoly businesses that produce the goods and services that they think will be necessary for the people. However, this doesn't always work out, as all the needs of the people will not be met this way, which will end up in them being extremely sad. And this also means that the businesses cannot respond to supply and demand, as well as free market forces or influences. And there is essentially no private ownership of land, labor, or capital, as these create competition, and competition is strictly prohibited under a command economy. When done right, this type of economy is able to create enough jobs for the people, but it is usually not the case. And due to the lack of competition, the planners, managers, and workers have no incentive to do anything more than the bare minimum. And because wages are essentially planned and profits are eliminated from any role in driving economic decisions, there is no incentive for innovation that excites, or efficiency in order to reduce the cost of production and lower the price of the products, which means that the people will suffer, as they will not get better products over time.
So now we're going to talk about the market economy, or also known as the free market economy. So this is an economy that has absolutely no government intervention inside its economy. And to make it clear, there is no economy in our today's world that is considered a completely free economy. Although there are no completely free market economies in this world, there are some economies like Singapore that are very close to being completely free. Now, what makes this economy so unique is the fact that they run based on laissez-faire. And laissez-faire is also known as the invisible hand. Now, within a free market economy, the questions of for whom, what, and how are all answered by the law of supply and demand. Now, this means the producers and the consumers will be making the products and goods and services based on the interaction of supply and demand. This is also known as self-interest. Just like with anything, the free market economy has its advantages and its disadvantages. Now, to go through the list of advantages, as said before, there is no government control, which means that people can have private property and private ownership, which also leads to self-interest, where people can follow the supply and demand to see which goods the country and the people want and which goods the company should produce. It also leads to competition, meaning because there's private ownership and no government, anybody can start and use the 4 factors of production to create goods and services. This also creates innovation because people want to create new and unique items so that the consumers can purchase them. Now, for the disadvantages, because there's no government intervention, there are no regulations, which means that there are no regulations for wages or for environmental concerns or work conditions. And a free market is also completely profit is a free market economy is completely profit driven, which doesn't always end well for consumers, since the companies, all they want to do is just create more and more profit. And with free market, because there's no government intervention, there are also market failures, which means that there are third parties being negatively affected by a good service or action. And also a negative is there's competition, which means that because it's a free market and there's no government regulation, it's kind of like almost a first come first served basis. So not everybody's going to be getting the accurate, not everybody's going to be getting the amount that they need to sustain themselves.
Okay, so now we're going to start the student participation activity, where in the next clip we're going to show one of Spruce Creek High School's finest, and we're going to ask the students to list all the 4 factors of production they can see and create a story of their jobs. Okay.
A traditional economic system is when an economy relies on customs, history, and time-honored beliefs. Their tradition guides their economic decisions, such as production and distribution. Traditional economies also depend on agriculture, fishing, hunting, gathering, or a combination of the things listed. They also use barter instead of money. Most traditional economies operate in emerging markets and developing countries. Traditional economies are often found in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. However, traditional economies are scattered all throughout the world. Traditional economies have 5 characteristics. The first is that they center around a family or a tribe. They use traditions gained from the elders' experiences to guide their day-to-day life and economic decisions. The second is that they exist in a hunter-gatherer society. They cover vast areas to find enough food to support them, and they follow the herds of animals that sustain them, migrating with the seasons. They also compete with the other groups for scarce natural resources. The third is that when these economies trade, they rely on barter, which is when people trade goods and services for other goods and services. The fourth is that they only produce what they need. Then the fifth is that they start to evolve once they start farming and settle down. They are more likely to have a surplus of crops that they use for trade, and they create some form of money.
Now, the last economy is a mixed market economy. And a mixed market economy is a mixture of all 3 economies. It's a mixture of all 3. That means that there will be government, at least some government, and there still will be self-interest. Now to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of a mixed market economy. Now for the advantages, since there is government intervention, there are going to be regulations set in place. So the workers will have wage minimums set, environmental concerns, and work conditions can be all regulated by the government to make sure that they're keeping the workers and the consumers happy. And there's also still continuing to be private ownership and private property. So the firms can still continue to hold their own private enterprises and private work. However, because there is government intervention, they sometimes put a safety net in, and safety nets can actually sometimes be a good thing too. Now, a safety net is when the government tries to bail out the firms or help the consumers with equality, and this also can lead to less innovation, and the firms, they'll just assume that the government will continue to bail them out, and they'll stop trying and stop innovating. And because there is both private ownership and government ownership, there's always a battle to find the balance between the two, whether it be more private ownership or more government ownership. Both of them always battle out to see who will have more ownership in the country. Now, scarcity is also known as the basic problem. Now, this means that we continuously want more and more things, but there's not enough to be given. So we will always want, but there's not going to be enough. Whether that's resources, goods, or services, we're always going to want more and more, but there's not always going to be enough for every single person to get what they want.
All right, so we're going to get some rice right now. All right.
We want some rice too.
I don't know what to tell you, man. This is the last bag.
For real?
Yeah, for real.
I'm gonna have to run them.
I'm sorry.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about the difference between trade-offs and opportunity cost in economics. So many people think that trade-offs and opportunity cost are the same thing, but actually they are very different. So trade-offs are the two options that you are picking between. For example, a trade-off example would be me having to pick between watching Netflix or working on this economics project, and then in the trade-off I would pick which one I want to do. So either watching Netflix or working on the economics project. The opportunity cost is what I would be losing in this scenario. So if I work on the economics project, I would lose the happiness of watching Netflix. However, if I work on Netflix, I will be losing good results and good grades on my economics project. So opportunity cost is what you will give up in as a result of the option that you selected in the trade-off. Thank you.
So now we're going to talk about marginal decision making. Now, in economics, marginal means additional. So in other words, this is additional decision making. So every good has a utility, or in other words, a value/worth. Economists believe that if the marginal/additional benefit is greater than the cost of the item, then you should purchase the item. So that means that if you're getting more value from the item than it is costing you, you should get the item. So in summary, marginal decision making is when the consumer is debating on buying another unit of a good or service, and this concept will help them decide if they should indeed purchase another unit of the good. So for example, let's pretend I'm at BJ's debating on buying 2 different garbage bags. Now my first option I can buy is the orange box, which has basic black garbage bags for $14.99. My other option is buying the blue box of garbage bags for another $1 for $15.99. Now the difference is that this blue box, the garbage bags, are much stronger and can hold more industrial grade items. So for my cost for buying the blue box is I'd have to spend an extra $1, but my benefit is the fact that I'm going to have a lot stronger garbage bags that can hold more items. So now I have to analyze whether spending the extra $1 is worth it in this situation, which explains the theorem of marginal decision making.